Hello, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Joy with Intention. I'm your host, Joy. So lovely to have you guys here. So today will just be a very, I don't know, maybe it will be quick, maybe it won't. But I thought, right. So okay, let me backtrack. I've Right, I've like kind of like started this episode in like a really like shouty note. Let me like chill. But anyways, this whole week, right, I've been seeing like a kind of thing of like a theme of change, and I'm like, ooh, okay, what exactly is that? What's going on? It's like three times I've seen it now, so I was like, okay, I think this is probably what the episode is going to be based on this week, because I think this has been something that has been speaking to me quite a lot as well. So it's like about like today's episode will basically be about like getting things done, finally starting to put in the change that you want to see in your life. By the way, in complimentary to this episode, I highly recommend you go listen to an episode from the Happy for You with Jules podcast. Go listen to the episode. Today is the day change begins in your journey. I listened to that last night and I just knew, oh my, like literally that episode was so like whoa. And then I just realized, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to talk about. Like, literally, I highly advise you guys go listen to that episode, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go listen to it, because that episode literally shifted everything into perspective for me. So maybe you want to go listen to it before you come here. But if you don't want to, hi, let's get straight into this episode. So if you're procrastinating right now, okay, I think you're in the right place. If you know there's something that you need to get done, but you don't want to, or you don't know where to begin, know that all begins within, right? It all begins within you. It begins within your mindset. Now, I was scrolling on Instagram. Yeah, I was on Instagram Reels a couple of days ago. And I've not exactly been having the best week. I'm not going to lie to you. I've not been having the best week. But then I saw this TikTok. No, not TikTok, sorry. Instagram Reel. I've deleted TikTok, by the way. So I don't know why I'm saying TikTok, but Instagram Reel. And there was this girl, and she did like a whole video, and basically it said, change is hard, but so is staying the same. Losing people is hard, but so is losing yourself. Working towards your goal is hard, but so is not having the life you want. Being a beginner is hard, but so is never growing. Choose your hard. And I was like, whoa. So that was the first thing I saw to do with change. And then after, I was scrolling on my daily positivity quotes app. It's called Motivation. You guys should go download it. It's really good, by the way. And the quote came on and it said, the 3 C's in life: choice, chance, change. You must make the choice to take the chance if you want anything in life to change. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay. And then lastly, I was because there's a fitness influencer I follow on Instagram. She's all things to do with positivity, faith, fitness, health, all that kind of stuff. And she has a channel, so I've joined her channel, and I like see all like her daily encouragement she posts there every single day. And then she posted this in the channel. She said, a lot of times, the change we want to see in our lives requires us to do things that feel wildly uncomfortable, break habits that we've ingrained in our daily routine, even if they don't support the person we want to be. They're still so hard to break free of. Change feels a lot like breaking first, but choosing to do the hard thing just one more day turns into a week, then a month, then 3, and suddenly you turn around and realize you've created a new normal for yourself, filled with habits, thoughts, routines that support the best version of you, not keep you from her. And now I saw things from all these different 3 or 4 sources, and I was like, whoa, because I think it was getting to a point where I realized I was getting in slumps way too often. I was getting in ruts way too often. I was so demotivated way too often. I was like, this is kind of like getting a bit concerning at this point. Like, why do I just never want to do anything, especially the things I know that are not good for me? But then I realized all that change, it starts with an inner discipline, and I didn't have that inner discipline within me. I wasn't disciplining myself and actually forcing myself to sit down and be like, okay, you want to see that change. Because sometimes I realize I have to come down a bit hard on myself. I can't sit there in a little victim mentality all the time, you know? Sometimes you really do have to come down hard on yourself and really tell yourself to act up and really tell yourself to, get yourself together. Because I feel like sometimes subconsciously, whether we notice it or not, we want to be babies. Not like babies, but like, you know what I mean? Like, we want sympathy. We want to be like, if we want to be excused, you know what I mean? But I think sometimes you have to come down hard on yourself sometimes. Now, obviously, that's not me saying, fit into like this toxic positivity cycle. No, we do not vibe with that over here. We're not saying, don't allow yourself to feel emotions that are completely normal and human and natural to feel. Absolutely not, because that is unhealthy, and that will most likely lead you down a worse path than you should ever even be on, or that would have even been intended, you know what I mean? But I think actually starting to implement that change in your life that you want to see, it starts from actually finding that inner discipline. And I feel like that's the difference when you stop relying on motivation and start pushing and leaning in towards discipline. Right. So, because obviously motivation, it's there for a reason. It's really good. It's really good when it's used like at the right times, in like right portion. It's good when you're not relying on it completely, like wholeheartedly. Like, you literally, it's like good when you're not gonna do what you know you should be doing just because you've been motivated to, you know what I mean? Because there's a point where we have to stop relying on motivation and we really have to rely on discipline. And if you don't have any self-discipline, I mean, how are you actually gonna how you gonna survive? How are you gonna get to those goals that you want to? That's why even in the thing, I'm gonna read it out again in that Instagram reel where she says, change is hard, but so is staying the same. You know, it's hard to become someone different, become the person that you want to be, move to that place you want to move to, start actually doing a new study routine, start using a new having a new lifestyle, like eating lifestyle that will actually help your body. Like, there's so many things. Like, change in itself can be so hard and so scary because comfort zones, we're so programmed to enjoy comfort and dwell in comfort and stay in comfort. But so more often than not, comfort and comfort zones can actually harm us more than they can actually do good for us. So yeah, change is hard, but then so is staying the same. You thinking you've had these big massive goals and dreams for yourself. Like, it's actually what Jules was saying in her episode that I just recently mentioned about. She was like saying, like, imagine you're sitting there, like, we only have one lifetime. When you actually put it into perspective, we only have one lifetime. And like, that's so scary to think about, but it really helps you put everything into perspective, because it's when you realize that you can't sit there waiting until you're 30 for you to finally go travel to that place, or for you to finally go and take up that job, or go live in that city. Like, you know what I mean? You can't wait until you're now retired, or now you're a pensioner or whatever, because especially sometimes there gets to points, she was literally saying, there gets to points where your health is not going to be as great as you've expected. Now, all of these things you've aspired for yourself, you said, okay, I'm going to do it, then I'm going to aspire for them, I'm going to push it till then, and then after, things happen, life happens, things change, it doesn't go as expected. Now you're sitting there in absolute regret. But it's like, staying the same is hard, you know what I mean? So why not just take that chance on yourself? Why not just decide to take that chance on yourself and find and develop that discipline within yourself to change? It doesn't even have to be big, it can even be super, super tiny, you know? And so like if you literally don't work out at all, you literally just like doing a jog for like 5 minutes per day, that's progress in itself, you know what I mean? Like just tiny things, because especially when it comes to comparing with other people, it can be so hard. But it's so true when they say you should really only compare you with you, because just imagine if you only jogged for like 5 minutes per day, or like jogged for like 2 minutes or something. Like just imagine like how much you would actually start to progress. You become better and more fitter every single day. You know what I mean? So yeah, change is hard, but so is staying the same, seeing that you've made no progress, seeing that you're not any closer to the person that you want to be. You're not any closer to the version of you that you know could reach all the highest potential that you have. You know what I mean? So honestly, I say take that chance on yourself. Decide that you are not going to sit there and feel sorry for yourself anymore, or allow yourself to stay the same as you always have been, especially if the way you always have been isn't working for you anymore. You know what I mean? Because especially that's something that I've been doing a lot as well. I've been sitting there just being lazy around and sticking in my little rut. And then I've been feeling sorry for myself all the time. But I'm like, girl, get up. Like, girl, literally get up. Like, I have to tell myself, girl, get up right now. Like, what do you actually think you're doing? Like, literally, because time is not on your side. It's not waiting for you. Like, it's going, and you're just sitting here thinking like, oh, okay. But then you complain as soon as you miss opportunities, or you miss these things where you know you could have well been involved in, but you just couldn't be bothered to put in that effort to experience that change. And then the second thing she said, losing people is hard, but so is losing yourself. You know, sometimes we have people in our lives that realistically they're not adding anything into our lives, they're not adding any value, they're not adding any purpose. Sometimes they even make us feel even worse about ourselves. Maybe they don't align with our beliefs and our values and our moralities, but you're still holding on to them for a reason that only you will know why. But you really know that reason is not a valid reason for you to still be holding on to that person. Or it's not really a necessary reason. And you know there's more cons of this person being in your life than there is pros. You know what I mean? But and so because you're so attached to this person, you're holding on to this person so hard, you're clinging onto this friendship group, onto these people so hard, you're literally losing yourself. It may even be a thing, you know, you go to college or uni, like American college or UK uni or whatever, and then you know you end up joining these sororities, you join these societies, these clubs, or you join this group or these these cliques, and then after you want to be like them, you want to finally fit in, especially if you're someone who's never had the chance to fit in. And if you have never had the chance to fit in, I get it, honestly I do. I've always been that kind of person. I've always never really fit in or found my actual people. Even in high school, I wouldn't necessarily say I was part of an actual friendship group. I had this actual there was like a massive group of us, but then if you looked at like the tiny friendship groups within the group, I wasn't actually part of any. I was just literally moving from one to one to one because I didn't feel like I was part of it. So obviously it would be natural for me to feel like, okay, I want to be part of something finally. I want to feel like I finally fit in, you know what I mean? But then sometimes we're not really meant to fit in because everyone is different for a reason. So if we're trying to fit in, we're trying to basically break ourselves into a mold that was never meant to fit us. Never meant to fit us. And that you're basically putting yourself under so much pressure that you're not meant to. So you're not gonna turn into a diamond, babes. You're gonna crack. You're gonna crack. You know what I mean? So honestly, yeah, losing people is hard, but so is losing yourself. Like, actually, I think we have to start to actually think, oh, okay, are these people in my life actually benefiting me? And am I best benefiting them as well? Am I adding any value into their life? Is this relationship adding any value into our lives? Especially look at it long term as well, because sometimes we look too much into the now and the present. Like, obviously live in the present, look in the now, but sometimes we dwell too much in the now that we forget that there's a whole future. Especially if you're still young, you think that now is actually the end of the world, but then we've got like how many years of adulthood to go through, especially if you're blessed with loads of years and you end up all the way at like 90 or 80. You've got so many years to experience and to live. So why are you busy? Why are you stressing if someone, if you know there's someone who's weighing you down energetically? They're just toxic, they're not nice, they're not kind, they don't make you sparkle, they don't bring any positivity or any value into your life, and neither do you to them. Or it's a one-sided relationship or friendship, then what's the point? Look into the future, see long term. Do you know that realistically long term, number one, this relationship will affect you negatively, and it will most likely make you into a person that you do not want to be. And number two, it will make you go through things that you never needed to go through. It will make you literally go through things that you never needed to go through. And number three, sometimes even then, it's just so draining being around people that you, especially because sometimes people don't even end up on bad terms. They just grow out of each other. They just grow out of each other. They just end up not aligning with each other anymore. And that's normal. That's okay. You don't have to end on bad terms. It's happened to me before. There's some people, we used to be friends, we used to be so close, but then we've just grown apart, and there's nothing bad about that. There's nothing bad about it. You don't have to have now weird terms with each other or anything. You know what I mean? Like, if people grow apart, and that is a part of life, that is so normal. And I think it's just honestly having to accept that. And sometimes it can be really hard. It's often harder, ending things, whether it's romantically or just friendship wise, or because you ended on good terms, or than it is actually ending on bad terms. You know what I mean? But don't be afraid to know when it's time to let things go and let things be as they were, be as they are, and just put them down to rest and let them go. Don't be afraid to know when it's time to say goodbye. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then also, she said, working towards your goal is hard, but so is not having the life you want. I think honestly this pretty much sums itself up as well. You don't want to work towards the goal. I think this is so key, because there's so many of us where we don't actually want to put in the work to reach the goal, but we want the goal. And then after maybe you do start the work, and then you only get halfway, and then you get so sad and you get so mad, because it's like now you realize, oh, I've just given up, but I've still got so much way to go. Working towards your goal is going to be hard. Nothing in this life comes easy. But if you have belief in yourself that you can do it, you can. Because even in the Bible, it says, as one thinketh, so he is. If you believe that you are an achiever, and you can achieve it, and that you will end up being in the place where you've accomplished the goals that you want to, you can and you will, because everything does start in the mind. If you start telling yourself in your mind that you can't do it, that you don't have the potential to do it, you can never do it, there's too many people that have done it before, so you can't, like too many people that are better than you, or they're more intelligent than you, or they have more connections than you, or they're just more driven than you. You know what I mean? Like, comparing yourself with other people, or just consistently belittling yourself, mentally your brain will start to align with that thought pattern, and it will start to act within that thought pattern. And because the brain, as we know, affects so much of our body and our thoughts and how we act, you will eventually start to align with that thought belief. And that is not a thought belief that is acting in your favor, it is acting against you, and we don't want that around here, right? So yeah, working towards your goal will be hard, but so is not having the life you want. Working towards your goal will be hard, but you can change how you react towards how hard it is. You know what I mean? Oh, there was this fire TikTok I think I saw like a couple of weeks ago. Oh my gosh, it was like it was just like this little kid, and he was talking, I don't even remember. It was like, but he was, the moral of what he was saying, he was basically like, you can't change what happens to you, but you can change how you react. And it's so powerful when you actually start to realize the power in how you react. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then last one, being a beginner is hard, but so is never growing. Starting something off is always going to be so hard, you guys. It is. And I know this I knew this firsthand. Like, when I first started running, I need to get back into to it, but when I first started running, when I did my first 5K, gosh, that thing was painful. It was painful. But I started to get better. I started to get better. And you know what? I started to get proud of myself because I was like, I never thought this would be me, but this is, and I'm doing it. And I was like, yeah, being a beginner is hard, but so is never growing. I feel like, especially, you just realize how much capability you actually have within you when you actually start something as a beginner, and you actually see it through, and you start to see yourself better at it and get better at it and improve. That's when you start to realize the potential you actually have in you, because we all have potential. I feel like sometimes we just can't see it though, and it takes something like that for us to actually start to realize just how much potential we actually have. And once you do, you honestly become a weapon. You literally become lethal. Like, no one actually has anything on you, you know what I mean? So yeah, change is hard, losing people is hard, working towards your goal is hard, being a beginner is hard. Those are the key points. But choose your heart. Choose your heart. And maybe you need maybe if you can talk to a friend about it, that you need to talk to a friend, tell them that you've got these goals you want to achieve, you've got this change in your life that you want to make. Maybe someone that you really trust, and they can be your accountability partner, and they can go on this journey with you, or they can just hold you firm, and they can keep you down, and like you'll even be scared to look and stuff, like, yeah. Okay. You know what I mean? Or maybe sometimes you just even need to put it out there, because sometimes it will even be the people that you never expected. Sometimes it really will be the people that you never expected that will actually end up going on this life-changing journey with you. So honestly, be open, really be open. And obviously, it's going to be scary. It's going to be terrifying, especially if it's a big life change. Obviously, think it through. You know what I mean? Try and plan it out to an extent, but don't be like me. Sometimes I plan things out way too much to an extent where I psych myself out and I talk myself out of it, and it's so bad. And I overthink about it. But then I literally saw this quote today from my quote app, my daily quote app, and it said, "Joy, overthinking will lead you to breaking your own heart." And I was like, that is so true. Because once you start overthinking, you've now literally you've basically brought all these assumptions and conclusions that were never meant to be there in the first place. And now you've brought yourself to this point when now you're like, okay, now I don't want to do it anymore. Now I just don't see the point. Now you're like kind of ruined the fun out of it. You know what I mean? Like, you've kind of taken the fun out of it. But I mean, be open, you know what I mean? Try not to be so closed off, especially because even sometimes, because I was listening to Fernanda Ramirez's podcast just earlier on today as I was doing the clothes, and it was her episode on body image. And she was saying that, obviously she's from Vancouver, Canada, so over there everyone tends to be a bit more closed off. Like, no one's really going to be that open to talking to strangers that much and stuff. But she was in New York, and she was like just sitting there in a cute cafe, and she was doing some work editing her podcast, and then she just ended up having a talk with this girl, that because I think there was a girl that was sitting next to her, and they just started talking. And then obviously, because she was like, okay, I'm from Vancouver, and like people, I'm usually quite closed off, and I get that because I grew up in Vancouver, you know what I mean? That's where I live. But I think being in New York really taught me that I have to just be a bit more open. So I decided to be more open. And she ended up having one of the best conversations she's ever had with this girl. And they spoke for time, and she got so much, like, literally most of the things that this girl was talking about, they were aligning with her, and she was hearing so much of the stuff from the other girl that she needed to hear. It was crazy when she was going through it. I was like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid to open up. Obviously, don't be naive. Obviously, we can't be naive, but be open. Don't be so closed off, especially because you never know what opportunities or connections are on the horizon of you just deciding to open yourself up just a little bit. You know what I mean? So yeah, change is going to be hard. Finally starting to work towards the life that you want for yourself is going to be hard. But you can do it. I know you can. And you have to start believing that you can. Because I am telling you right now that you can. And I want you to keep telling yourself that you can. Even if you have to write it down over and over again. Because our brain does tend to believe things that we say, that we write down, and that we repeat over and over again. That's what my Spanish teacher says. Like, he says, you know, if you write it down and if you say it over and over again, it's boring. But it will stick in your mind and you'll remember it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Choose your heart. Choose your heart. Don't be afraid of change. Change doesn't always have to be bad. And sometimes, even though the change is going to be a bit of a grueling process, sometimes it's going to be a scary process, sometimes it's going to be a hard process, and it's going to break you and it's going to tear you apart, and it's going to completely make you feel things that you never knew you could feel. But sometimes that actually, because with enough pressure, you get diamonds. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid of the breaking. Don't be afraid of the change. Embrace it. You know what I mean? And don't force yourself to go through it alone. Because there's so many people, even if it's online, that you have to find people where you can go through it. I'm sure there's so many different safe spaces online, whether that be through groups, or maybe there's some different influencers that you like and they have like their own communities they set up, you know, just loads of different things. Honestly, do not be scared to start implementing the change that you want into your life, and choose your heart. This is me speaking to myself as well. I'm telling myself to choose my heart, you know, and I'm getting better. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, I probably couldn't have even got myself up to actually be disciplined, but now I've actually been starting to implement a lot more structure into my day, into my life, a lot more. Like, I'm actually I'm really starting to get a bit more on top of my grinds and my things, you know what I mean? And I think also, even the company I keep, I have loads of amazing girls around me that they're all focused, they're all driven, you know, they have they have good they have good heads on them, and they know that it's okay to feel down sometimes. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have off days. It's okay to not always feel 100%. It's okay to sometimes give yourself some grace. You know what I mean? And they understand that. But they also know that sometimes you can't always be relying, living in a slump or just staying there. You've got to pick yourself up eventually. And we will always be there to pick each other up and build each other up eventually, you know what I mean? So yeah, choose your hard, you guys. I'm choosing my hard. I'm deciding to finally start working on my life and starting to better myself, and I hope you do too. I think that's even why, like, literally listen to podcasts, literally guys, it can help so much, and watching like different YouTube videos and stuff, like, and for the love, please do not fit into toxic positivity. Like, if you feel sad, okay, you feel sad, just let the feeling happen and let it go. You know what I mean? You don't need to hang on to it and wallow in it and be like, oh my gosh, I feel so sad, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going down this slope and I can't. No, it's okay. You feel sad, okay? Let it go. You feel jealous, okay? Let it go. You know, just let it. It's like a cloud. Just let it go over. Don't let it affect you, or don't hang on to it. You don't, because sometimes we make things bigger than they actually need to be. You know what I mean? Sometimes we spiral things further than they need to even be spiraled. But you know what? Just leave it, let it go, let it fly over. It will come and it will go, but as soon as it goes, just let it go. Don't hold on to it too much, because then that's when it will start to affect you and it will start to become a part of you, and we don't want that, do we? So yeah, don't be afraid to acknowledge your feelings and your emotions, and especially if you're someone who does need to, maybe just start writing them down, because sometimes, especially if you don't have anyone that you know you can talk to or trust with those feelings, sometimes just getting them down on a piece of paper and writing them down is another way of just getting them all out, or whether that be through just speaking into a voice memo or just doing video diaries or something. Just get it out there, let it out. You just need to get it off your chest, especially when you actually talk through it and you actually verbalize it or you write it down, and your brain can start working through those thoughts. that's when you actually start to realize maybe the root of the problem. Maybe you start to realize the solution. Maybe you start to realize why you've been feeling this way. You start to realize different factors. You start to realize so many different things. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I had to say, you guys. But yeah, choose your heart, you guys, and I know you can do it. I believe in you, and it's about time you started believing in yourself too. Yeah. I'm yeah, that's all I have to say, you guys. But yeah, thank you so much for listening today, you guys. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. um yeah, I'm so glad to be on the podcast again. And yeah, I really truly hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and this episode really helped you guys. If you can give a rate on Spotify, let me know down in the suggestion box in Spotify what you thought of this episode. Yeah, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can give me a rate. Yeah, a rate and a review. Yeah, on Apple Podcasts, if you give a rate and review, that helps the podcast so much. So give whatever you want, whatever you've got, say it with chest. Be honest. How was your experience on this side of whatever you're listening to? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But thank you so much for listening, guys. You can connect with me on social media. All my links will always be in my show notes. So yeah, you can go and link with me there. And yes, thank you so much for listening, you guys. Hope you have an amazing day, afternoon, night, evening, whatever time you're listening. And yeah, sending lots of love your way. And yes, okay, bye. See you next Sunday.